Jean. But aren't you a bit old to go topless?
Oh, they're breasts. I thought they were Pitta Breads.
Alright guys, it's John from John's Pantry again. I'm here making Pitta Breads to go with, to make Pitta Bread salads for our supper tonight. It's a really basic recipe. All you need is some bread flour, oil, salt and yeast, and a red hot oven. And that's it. You can cook them in a pan on the top, but they don't come out as good. Red hot oven, perfect. So I'll spin you round in a second and we'll have a look at the ingredients. Right, the ingredients are just some oil, olive oil or vegetable oil will do, some bread flour or plain flour, and some salt, sugar and a sachet of yeast. That's it. Cheers. Right, the ingredients, as I said, is some flour. Now I'm using strong white bread flour just because that's what I always use. You can use plain flour. It might just take a little bit longer to knead and a little bit longer to prove, but that's all because it's got lower gluten. So plain flour or bread flour, 1 sachet of yeast. You can buy them as an individual sachet. I think they cost about 20 pence or something in the supermarket, but you can buy a box of them for 60 pence, which is 8. So a sachet, and some salt. Don't have to use rock salt, just normal salt, a teaspoon of it, and some olive oil. Failing olive oil, vegetable oil will do. I've got a knife, and that is to save me making a mess of my hands basically. And I've got a tablespoon just to measure out the oil, and then I've also got a teaspoon to measure the salt, and that's all we need obviously, and a cup because we're not using scales. A cup will do. So what we start with, a clean mixing bowl. I'm not going to use a machine, it's all done by hand. So first of all, we need 2.5 mugs, just a builder's tea mug. 2.5 mugs of your flour. Like I say, any flour would do. As long as it's not self-raising, you don't want any raising agents in it. So there's 1. Now this should equate to 500 grams of flour. 2 and then a half, because each builder's mug is about 200 grams. That's a little bit too much in there. I'll take just a tablespoon. So I've done 2 full ones and a half one, and they just go into the mixing bowl. Then I want a teaspoon of salt on one side. Oh, and I forgot to mention the sugar. You need 1 teaspoon of sugar as well. And what that does is that feeds the yeast. Then I'll put the sugar on the other side of the bowl, because you don't want the salt to touch the yeast directly, because salt will kill yeast. As long as it's mixed in with the flour before you put your yeast in, you're fine. And then I want a tablespoon. I want 2 tablespoons of oil. And it's the same with oil. You don't want to get that in direct contact with your yeast. Right, and that's the ingredients put together, apart from the yeast. So I've got my knife, and you'll see why I need the knife. And that's just to mix the salt, the sugar and the oil into the flour. So when I put the yeast in, it's not going to come in direct contact with the yeast, because the yeast is fairly stable, but you don't want to take any chances with it. And then we just want your sachet of yeast, which I'll just sprinkle over go. Now the liquid content of it. So there's just the flour, salt, sugar, oil and the yeast. And the water content, liquid content, is just a mugful of tepid water. Now tepid means if you put your finger in, you shouldn't feel a temperature change. So it's not too hot so you can feel it's hot, and it's not too cold that it feels cold. So when you put your finger in, it actually feels the same temperature as your finger, which is blood temperature. Now that's what you're looking for. We're not going to put it all in at once. And what we're going to do is we're going to have our handy knife again. This is going to stop me from making a right mess on my fingers. So I will pour most of it in, and you can see I've left a fair dribble. And then I get my knife and I mix that in. Now normally you would have your fingers covered in sticky bread dough at the moment. Now can you see where it's coming together? But you can tell that's too dry because there's still quite a bit of flour left there. So I'll put the rest of it in. There we go. And same again with the knife, just mix it around, and that's got rid of all the water. That's now incorporated into the flour, and I can take that off, and then I'll just scrunch it together. So that's 2 cups of flour, 2.5 cups of flour, builder's tea mugs, and then 1 brimming builder's tea mug of water. No scales involved. And now we've got a perfect, still a bit sticky, but that's what we want. Because by the time we kneaded it, that'll be a lovely, lovely dough. Now with this dough, you could use it for bread rolls, you could use it for a loaf of bread, you can do pizzas with it. Perfect pizzas. My little grandson, he's only 7, and he makes this and makes his own little pizzas, obviously with his mum's help. But so that's that. Now there's a little bit of flour on the bench, so I'll just use that flour. I'll just spread it around, and then once we start kneading it, we'll find that just there, that's better. Be able to see. And once we start kneading it, you'll see that the texture will change. And I'm just going to give my hands a quick wash, just because I need to take the wax off and my ring. It's not good if you're kneading bread, etc., with rings on, because you always get dough stuck under the ring, and it's not very hygienic. And your watch as well. We don't want anything to contaminate the bread dough. So there's my watch and my ring off. And then all we're going to do is just bring it over itself and just push it. Turn it 90 degrees, bring it over itself and push it. And you want to try it as if you're pushing it into the bench. And just keep doing that until you'll notice the texture will change. You can put it in your Kenwood mixer or whichever mixer you want with a bread dough, bread hook, but it's more fun doing it this way. Now I've only turned that a couple of times, and can you see how the texture's changed slightly? I'm not going to put any more flour on that board. That little, half a tablespoon will do it. It's not going to stick anymore. And I'm doing this with my left hand so you can see it. And I'm right-handed, so it's not difficult. But what you need to do is you keep doing this for at least 5 minutes, but I recommend 10. So I'll crack on with this and I'll come back to you when it's needed, and you'll be able to see the difference in texture. Now at the moment you can see that's very breakable. It's not holding. So what we'll do is I'll come back to you in about 10 minutes. Right, we're just about there now. If you notice, it's no longer, you can't see any more flour or any crummy bits, as we call it. So that is now ready for its first proof. Now, proof just means literally let it sit in a warm corner somewhere, covered up so it doesn't get a dry skin on it, and it will double in size. So what I like to do, I've just given that a quick wipe. I haven't washed it, I've just literally wiped out the flour that was in it. I'm going to drizzle a little bit of olive oil into it, swirl it round, just so I've covered the bottom and up to the sides. I've still got a bit of oil on my hand there, so that will give it a little bit of protection from drying out, and then it can go in there. Now a handy hint, I know at the moment we're all in lockdown and we're not going to be going to hotels or bed and breakfast soon, but if you go to bed and breakfast or hotels regularly, you'll find, I've got quite a few there, but you'll find shower caps. Now I never use shower caps because I haven't got much hair anyway, but they're absolutely perfect for when you're making bread. Put your bread dough in there, there's your shower cap, sits over perfect, and that's it. You've now covered it. Now that, I'm not going to stand on a radiator. If you stand it on a radiator, you'll find it'll prove far too quickly and you will not get a decent texture. So that's your bread dough at this stage. So we'll come back in, I would say, because the house is quite warm, so I would say we'll come back in 30 to 45 minutes, and you'll be able to see how much it's proved. Now we're just looking for it to double in size. So what I can do is, so I can see what height that is now, and I'll put a little bit of flour there. Can you see that's the height it's at now? So when we come back to it, we'll be able to see how much it's risen. And I'll see you in half an hour. Cheers. Right, this is a tray that we're going to be using. It's just a flat tray. You could use any tray. This one's handy. It's a flat tray. I've also put a bit of parchment, you know, the baking, the plastic stuff, Teflon stuff. Put that on. You don't have to. I mean, it won't stick because it'll be red hot, and as soon as the bread touches it, it'll just sear anyway. I'm going to put it into the oven for it to warm, really get hot. I've got the oven on 220 at the moment, and that should do it. Right, now that tray is heating up in the oven. That's what we want. We want a red hot tray. So as soon as we rolled out the pita breads, we put it straight on the red hot tray, and that'll start it cooking instantly. It will also help it go puff as you do. So here's the bread dough that we made earlier. I'll put a little bit of flour on the bench. We will be needing some flour to roll these out with. So I'll empty this. There we go. I mean, there's a little bit of oil on there left from the bottom of the bowl, but you will feel it's a completely different texture now. It's all full with air. But what we want is, we want to get rid of those large air bubbles because we just want the little ones. So I'll just fold it like that and just keep twisting it into itself. Not too roughly. All we're trying to do is break up the big bubbles. Now we're going to get 12 Pitta Breads out of this. So, easiest way to do that, get a knife, cut what you've got in half, and then each half cut in half again, and then each quarter you've got, just guesstimate, cut them into 3. Do the same with the rest of it. They don't have to be perfect, don't weigh them out, don't measure them. Guesstimate will do, doesn't matter if one's bigger than the other. Now we'll cut this into 3. That's the last into 3. So what we want to do now is we want to turn these into a nice round shape. So I've put my hand over it like that. Can you see? Now we don't want any more flour on the bench, not at the moment. Put my hand like a cage over it, just so that my palm is just touching it, and then I'll just go round and round and round, and slowly but surely I'm bringing my fingers in like that as I'm turning it, and that will create a ball. You can start off with quite a bit of pressure and then leave it, and you end up with a nice little ball. I'll go ahead and do all of these exactly the same. So we end up with 12 similar size, similar shaped balls. I mean, if you can't do that way, just do it like this. Turn it and just keep turning it like that onto itself, and there we go. You've got a nice, that's all you're looking for. Right, we'll just crack on and get these last ones done, and then once we've got these done, we can just leave them on the bench just for 30 seconds to a minute. And that will just let them relax again. We're waiting for them just to chill out, mellow. That'll make it a lot easier for when we come to roll them out. And we all know what size a Pitta Bread is. It's like an oblong, a rugby ball shape. We've got the tray in the oven. The oven's set to 220, and we'll crack on. Right, now this is where we need a fair bit of flour. We'll start off with one of the balls, put some more flour on it, and then we'll just roll it out. Now don't worry, you're thinking, oh, there's a lot of flour on there. What we're going to do, we're going to shake off the flour when we come to cook it. But we do want some flour left on it. That helps it from stop sticking. Right, that's it. We all recognise that shape, don't we? That's a Pitta Bread. Then we'll just chuck it between our hands like that. There we go, that's all the flour off. There is some flour on there, but we want it to stop it from sticking to the tray. Now, I'll go and put one straight in. I'm just going to put it straight onto the tray, and then we'll do the rest of them. Now these take anywhere between 4 minutes to 8 minutes in the oven. That's all, because they are quite thin. Can you see how thin I've rolled it? It's about a pound coin width. Maybe a little bit more than a pound coin. But I'll go and put this one in the oven, and then we'll see it when it comes out. And while that one's in the oven, we'll just crack on and roll out another one. We'll just keep doing this. It's one of them things that you can just put the radio on and just chill. nothing else to worry about apart from your Pitta Breads. There we go. And we'll just shake that flour off. There's another one to go in. I do two at a time. So when that one comes out, I'll put these two in together on that big tray. And it'll take you 20-25 minutes to cook them all. So we're not worried about that. I'll just shake the flour off again. And then leave them by the side. Now what I've done is, previous to this, I made some bread buns, exactly the same bread dough mix. They've come out lovely. They're really light, and I've done exactly the same. Made these into the ball shape, 12 of them. Put a damp cloth over them on that same tray that I'm using for the Pitta Breads. Put a damp cloth over them, left them for half an hour to prove again, which double in size, and then they went straight in the oven. So at the moment we're just waiting for that first one to come out. So we'll have a look in a second. There we go, that's it in the oven. Just gone in. Right, I think it's time for this one to come out. There you go. I'll leave the tray in the oven, and that's my first Pitta Bread. Right, this is the first one that came out of the oven. There's another two in at the moment. I've got another two lined up to go in. I'll just cut that. There we go. Nice bit of Pitta Bread pocket. Fill that with salad. You'll get to see the end result when I come to do them in a couple of hours time. Beef bash bosh. Thank you very much. Crack on, ladies and gentlemen. Just got another 11 to do. Cheers. I hope you enjoyed that. It's nice and easy. The kids would love kneading that bread dough, and you can just let them go crazy with it. Just make sure it keeps clean, because I know with all of my grandkids at one stage or another it's always ended up on the floor. But at work I can't do the 3-second rule, but at home, yeah, 3-second rule's fine. Anyway, I hope you do try this. If you go to the next video that's coming in this sequence, it'll probably be up later this evening. It's what I filled the gorgeous Pitta Breads with, and it's just a chopped salad and some homemade hummus. Not using chickpeas, using broad beans / butter beans. Butter bean hummus is gorgeous. Hopefully you will try this, and like I say, that bread dough, you can use it to make a loaf of bread, you could use it to make bread rolls, pizzas, Pitta Breads obviously. It's really versatile, and you don't need a machine, you don't need scales. As long as you've got a builder's mug, get cracking. Hope you enjoy. Watch out for the salad recipes, salad video coming up. Cheers. Right, once your bread's been in the oven for 5 minutes, I would say, check them. If it's brown on both sides and it feels quite firm to the touch, take it out the oven, leave it on your chopping board, give it 2 or 3 minutes, slice it open, and it's perfect. Cheers.